What is going on, you guys? My name is Rage, and we are back today with a Dark Dimension 5 Node 1 playthrough and guide here to showcase for you guys the first 5 characters I'm bringing in, as well as the overall strategy. And overall, it's pretty straightforward, so I do want to show you guys play-by-play of how I was able to progress through it. But before we even dive in, just a quick run-through of my roster, so that way you can get to see the power level and upgrades. Cloak, everything's upgraded here, bringing him because of his negative conditions that he can inflict. And as you can see there with the ISO 8 set, everything's been upgraded, so he's been super phenomenal in Dark Dimension 5. Highly recommend. The only caveat is that he does require Mystic Gear, and I know players who are investing in Cloak or Dagger as well being utilized in the city nodes, they may actually have to take a pause and be waiting in those cosmic nodes when you use the Mystic Gear. So that's something to be mindful of when you're preparing. Next up, we have Ghost Spider, synergizing with Cloak as well, being able to spread the negative conditions. I really like her because she actually has an ability block as well, and that's super crucial, especially when we're trying to spread negative conditions and keep the blinds going overall. Shang-Chi, one of the best characters right now in the game, especially now him being farmable in the Blitz store directly. All of his abilities are good. He's got a heal. Yeah, he's got an ultimate that absolutely devastates the enemies. And as well, just really strong self-sufficiency with offensive output. We have Omega Red here, really applying a lot of the crowd control for us on the team as well, just because he's got 2 ability blocks. He can utilize, percentage health, damage attacks that self-sustain himself. So he's really been an MVP for me, especially for these initial nodes. And for sure, if you guys have the materials and gear to have Omega Red in the initial nodes, I highly recommend, because you bet I'm going to look forward to bringing him back onto the legendary nodes once I get back to that after these initial ones. And last but not least, synergizing with the rest of the team and Ghost Spider, adding synergies there. It is Scarlet Spider, with the extension of negative conditions, as well as the ultimate that has slow and damage. And overall, the passive ability does give, passive boosts here to Ghost Spider as well. So, I mean, that synergy is always there, and that's nice to have any more Web Warriors here. So, that being said, you guys, those are the 5 characters. Let's dive right now into the gameplay. Now, this definitely took me a few tries at the beginning, just because of the fact that when we're starting off in this node, there's a lot of damage that it inflicts, and it can be done with a one-shot attempt, as you'll see in my video here. But you're just gonna have to wait for that moment where your allies don't fall. As you can see in the beginning, all the Winter Soldiers, they just start attacking. You get the Dad Bros just unleashing some of their damage, and sometimes you may find that our team may have a fallen comrade in the first turn. So if that's the case, guys, just feel free to back out of it and then restart. It did take me quite a few tries to get the right RNG, but once it's good to go, you can see from the beginning I do try to ability block Captain America, just because of the fact that he has a taunt, can't really do much there. And then the moment you do get a chance to actually finally utilize Cloak here, this is where the value comes in, right? His negative conditions of inflicting all the blinds across the board, that's really pivotal, especially in this initial wave. Now, at the beginning here, we're really not going to have much of a choice. In my personal opinion, you do want to take down the damage dealers, and fortunately, the Winter Soldiers are actually weaker on this initial node, so we do want to focus them and get them out of the way because they have damage. So having the cleanse such as Shang-Chi is going to be absolutely huge. He's really the only heal that we got on the team. Omega Red can sustain himself, but you're going to see that in this initial wave here. You're really going to have to just focus down on damage and try to self-sustain, as well as ability block. So this is a great example of Omega Red. You see them having positive buffs, and he can just flip it all completely. Ability blocking, as you can see there, and now we're actually going to follow up here and finish off Winter Soldier. And then once that's done, take a chance to kind of survey the land, see who's weak. And personally, I recommend Winter Soldier or one of the Dad Bros, depending on how weak they are, because of them being that part of that right cluster where they took a lot of damage. It's a great chance to kind of clean up the board. The good news is that the next wave doesn't actually spawn until all these enemies fall, so we can really take our time and try to take down the damage dealers, and then really build up energy in preparation for the next wave. Yeah, you can see here, we're going to go ahead now and finish off another one of the Dad Bros. And that should just leave Iron Man, Captain America, and Multiple Man. And this is a really good spot to be because, like I said, Iron Man doesn't really do damage, even with him being quite boosted in this Dark Dimension 5 nodes. But once you have Captain America and as well as Multiple Man being the last, we can really build up our energy and have all of our abilities really ready to go for the next wave here. Fast forwarding here just to save you guys a little bit of time, but as you can see, finishing off the real multiple man here now in this last footage here. And now we can go ahead and, again, all my abilities are actually saved up now in preparation for the next wave. And that's the exact same mentality you should have for each of these nodes and waves, because when we don't have energy ready to go, this is where our team can be crippled. I feel like that's a lot of the strategy base behind Dark Dimension 2, because it's really about a marathon and not a race when you're going through these, right? So what I do first of all here, as you can see, I actually ability blocked Loki so that way he couldn't use his abilities, and then I followed up with a blind. And once that blind actually falls on the 3 Thors, we're in a really good spot, because even if we go ahead and strike the Asgardians with Thors gaining charges, it's honestly not going to matter, because with all of them blinded, they won't really be able to touch us. At that point, I am now just resuming and focusing damage here and just kind of spreading it accordingly. If you get a chance to use Scarlet Spider here, as you can see what I just did there with the special, extending the blind as well, adding another turn of it. And like I said, I feel like this wave could be dangerous if you don't have the Thors blinded or at least crowd controlled. But as you can see right there, they didn't do anything to us. And even with them getting charges, honestly, not a big deal. So really, this wave should be quite straightforward. We have Omega Red that can really scale down his damage and really strike them down easily. At this point, you know, we see that Black Widow doesn't actually have the blind, so we can go ahead, focus her. We could go ahead and finish a Loki as well, just because both of them, they're not dangerous as well, but if they have their abilities, that could, you know, wreak a little bit of havoc and do some damage for us. And keep in mind too, the 5 characters I have right now on my team, they don't have a lot of healing, right? So that's the only risk here right now. Great crowd control, don't get me wrong, but the lack of healing can make it into a risky team depending on who we're up against. So fortunately enough, this is a good way for us, and especially with these guys not doing too much damage. And now again, similar to the first wave, as we are ramping down here, we are just saving up energy. That's why I'm not using any of my ultimate abilities and just really saving them, because again, we want to be ready to go when the next wave spawns. At this point, Black Widow and Captain America once again should be the last 2 on your team, because like they're not really high priority targets. Maybe Black Widow if you can finish her off before she gets a shroud, but she'll likely stay alive due to her stealth there. And then finishing off the last Captain America finally gives us the last wave that we deal with here. And again, I don't think they're going to be tricky, but if you have Cloak right away, activating the blinds here with the negative conditions with his ultimate, that's really the key ability there, just because all of them getting those negatives, and now we can kind of start our damage and allocating. And keep in mind too, Groot does have the cleanse, so that's why I go ahead and actually ability block him right away. And the best thing to start this off is, as well, with all those negative conditions being inflicted by Cloak, having Shang-Chi's ultimate, reducing your speed meter, and doing some really heavy damage on all of them, and, you know, absolutely huge to start off this initial wave, right? You know, a good opportunity as well is if you guys see that there's any enemies that don't have a blind, that's when it's a great chance to actually utilize Ghost's ultimate. I ability block the other Groot there too, just because there's 2 of them. So now we're in a good place to actually focus on damage, and the Groots, you know, they're going to be ability blocked for at least a turn, so we get that little bit of time just to kind of focus in on some damage dealers here. And that's really going to be the Sabretooths, right? I would leave the Captain Americas just because they're not going to do much, but, you know, Sabretooth, Cyclops, you know, they're going to be the ones that are taking us down if this wave becomes dangerous. And now, great chance. This is what I love about the different turns on each of the blinds here. You know, we see some of the enemies getting refreshed with abilities, and the blind dropping off naturally just because they take their turn, and we go ahead now and use Ghost Spider's ultimate to refresh that. Now everybody has a blind again. So I mean, that's really how this team's built and how it's played excellently. Just you can constantly be inflicting negative conditions. The weakness of this one is when we're up against the cleansers, right? So that's why focusing on the Groots was really huge. And now my focus is on both the Cyclops, just because they're the ones that have the charges. And again, we're lucky that they're blinded, but if they do get their way with us, they can definitely KO us. That's why we do need to focus on them. Naturally, with all the damage, you should get a chance where one of the Groots or both of the Groots get weaker, and that's when you can take advantage and just finish them off. Again, if you can take down one of them, I think it's really good. You can see another Cyclops has been down now, so this is how it should look like in working order here, right? Focus on the Cyclops and Groots, and the Sabretooth should naturally just be losing HP as you do your AoE damage with this team. If you're using a similar team, you're going to have a good time, just because, like I said, the synergies of this team, being able to inflict those negative conditions and making them stick stick for a long time. That's really the bane and true strength of the synergy of these characters working together in tandem. You guys have it there, all getting weaker and weaker. And again, following the basic strategies that we've seen in Dark Dimension 3 and 4, keep in mind as well, once we get down to, you know, let's say 3 enemies, 2 enemies, you really do want to start focusing on just using your basic attacks. And hopefully there's no enemies that can one-shot or take you out. But again, this wave shouldn't have any issues just because there's 2 Captain Americas that we are able to leave it to the very end. There we go, finishing off the second to last Captain America. And again, just using basic attacks, taking our time here. And you can see with this team, again, if you can just get the right RNG at the beginning, you are able to actually one-shot it with this team synergy and combination. It's just that initial Brent. If you're not able to actually do that, then it's okay to do a sacrificial attempt first. But as you can see, one attack, 38.75 million. And for future video reference, I always like to keep this as a tracker, but my achievements here are just days logged in. Starting at Dark Dimension 5 at 874 days in, 100% free to play. And then let's see here, my total TCP, 12.2 million. So there you guys have it, just for informational reference and as a free to play player. Thank you as always. Hope this video is able to help you guys and provide some support. And thank you as always. I'll see you guys in the next one.